Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we're going to be talking all about brushes and tools. So it has been a while since I've had a roundup for you of my favorite brushes, the tools that I tend to use in every video, and I often forget. So like I'll pick up a brush and I'll start using it and I won't tell you what it is. And I get a bunch of comments and sometimes I remember to respond to them and sometimes I don't. So today I'm going to walk you through my current favorite brushes, the tools I'm loving, and everything that I use, most of which I used today. So if that's something you're into, make sure to keep on watching and don't forget to subscribe because I upload every other day. That'll be the best way to stay up to date on all the fun stuff I'm posting. So if you want to jump into my favorite brushes with me, stay tuned. So first things first, I will say 90% of the time a sponge is my favorite, just because the amount of times like I will finish and I'll just want to pat over whatever I just blended with a brush. I'll use this to just press things in. I think it just brings everything to life, especially when I take a tiny bit of setting spray and mist it onto the sponge. It just helps for me to lay everything extra smooth. That being said, when it comes to foundation brushes, Jackie Aina tried and true, the NYX Professional Makeup 03 brush. This is so beautiful for stippling product on. I'll take a tiny bit on. I actually use, this is from the brand DSDM Shop, Dark Skin Makeup Daily, and it's a little palette. I'll put my foundation or tinted moisturizer there, pat it in, and just apply it like this. And then once it's kind of stippled on the whole face, I will switch to my sponge and just pat everything in. It leaves everything very flawless and airbrushed and smooth and looking beautiful all day long. And plus, when you use a brush, you get a little bit more control over where it's going, and then the sponge will pick up the extra product, so you're not getting too much product and you're picking up everything you don't want there. I'm going to kind of go in order that I would do my makeup or use these products. Some of these you will have seen before because for many, many years I've been using a lot of the same brushes, and there are ones that I'm still obsessed with and continue to use. Like this one right here. This is the Morphe M173. It is a little fingertip size concealer brush that you can use for the under eye. I love this for eyeshadow primer, whether I'm using a MAC paint pot, a P. Louise base, anything. I will take it on here, stipple it onto the eye, switch back to my sponge to pat it out, and then lock it in and start doing my eyeshadow. But this consistently, it is like the perfect size of like the tip of your finger. So if you're someone who likes to use your fingers, but like doesn't want to use your fingers, this is really easy to get into all of those areas that are hard to reach, side of the nose. It is such a good concealer brush, and I love using it for my eye primer. For pretty much all creams in general, this is the Larousse Beauty. I don't know the number of it, but I think it came in an Ipsy. Whether you're doing cream contour, cream blush, I can use this to set down a cream concealer. Really any cream products, this is a fantastic brush. I will use this especially if I have just put on my concealer and I feel like it needs a little something. I'll take this and I'll just kind of pat out the edges, go back to the sponge, and then set it down, and that's it. This line right here in the center of my forehead tends to crease quite a bit. So after I put on my concealer, but before I powder it, I always need to go in and finesse a little bit, and this is so helpful for that. Many of you have asked about this brush many times. This is from the brand Base Blue. This was their 10-year anniversary brush. I love this for anything. It works with liquids, it works with powders, but my favorite way to use it is for a bronzer. Because of the shape of the brush, you have a point, I don't know if you guys can see, you have a point that gets most of the product and then the sides that don't get as many. So I pick up the product like this, and then when I diffuse the product, it gives me a really effortless blend without a lot of effort. So I can go in and just shape the face with this, and it really helps to blend everything in beautifully. I've also been known to take this in a pressed powder just to quickly clean up underneath my contour, bronzer, blush, etc. Just when I feel like things are getting a little muddy, it'll help me to clean it up because of that shape of the brush. Also from Base Blue, you've seen this brush a lot. This is, I don't even know the name, but it is the large fluffy powder brush. Inside, it actually has a smaller brush, which you can use for either concealer or eyeshadow. I'm going to be honest, I don't think I've ever used the brush inside. I always use the big brush. It is so, like, look how massive that is. It's like half of my face. So I'll take a bunch of powder on here and just kind of stamp this over everything. And I feel like it brings the face together ever so beautifully. And it's such a silky, it is such a silky texture that when you take it and just buff into the skin, it really brings everything to life really well without things looking murky or muddy. and I just took that over my blush, and honestly, I don't think it did anything wrong. Not that there was any powder on it, but when you have a brush that is so soft that rubbing it on a face that has a full face of makeup done doesn't do anything, you know it's a soft brush. For the under eyes, this is the Spotlight Duster from Sigma. It's actually meant to be a cheek brush for highlight, but for highlight, I prefer to use a smaller brush. This is the Sigma Soft Blend 40. This is what I like for the cheeks and for highlight. This I love to stamp powder on the under eye. I'll also use this to precision set the face. And then I'll just take a finishing powder on this, whether it's a Charlotte Tilbury or the Givenchy Rose Powder, and I'll just lightly feather this everywhere just to kind of bring everything together. It is such a beautiful brush, and again, it is so soft that you can use it over everything and it's not gonna move anything around. I already showed you the base blue brush that I like for contour and bronzer, but lately I've been really liking this one from Farrah Brushes. I will go right into my bronzer and I will just gently, so I start with the side and I will pat on the cheekbone and then I will just blend. And it gives me the most lit from within, beautifully blended bronzer that doesn't look like you spent a lot of time putting on bronzer. Very similar to this, but with this one, I find I like using it more when I've used a contour first, and I'm using this to diffuse bronzer on top. If I'm not going in with a contour and I just want to bronze, I find this brush to be a little bit better for just getting precisely where I want it, and it hugs the cheek beautifully to give you that sculpted effect on the perimeters. And going back to, I think, day one on my channel, the most abused brush I have, this is the Morphe E4. I use it for blush. These are all little dents from how many times I have tapped off the brush while I was using it. The paint is coming off. This is one of my oldest brushes, and I love it because it just cups the cheek perfectly for applying blush. I will probably end up purchasing another one of these in the near future because it is that good. I will start by just kind of pulling on the cheekbone, then I will stipple up and down. I'll then switch over to my highlight brush, apply my highlight, and then going in circular motions, just blend it all together. This allows my highlight to shine through my blush so that you don't have that strike of highlight. Instead, you have just this glowy, luminous cheek, giving this life to the whole face. Now, I can do an entire dedicated video on eyeshadow brushes, but I'm gonna talk about these 6 today because these are the ones I find I consistently use the most. First, this is from Beauty For Real. This is just their eyebrow brush. It is the perfect spoolie because it bends in a way that you get really precise, but the other spoolies I have, I don't love. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but you see how this one is a lot longer and skinnier? This one's a little bit fluffier, so when I'm taking it through my brows, it just makes sure that it picks up every piece of powder between the hairs, everything that's not sitting straight, and it just lays it down beautifully. In the past, I did not use the other side just because I don't really do liner, but lately I've been really enjoying putting a brow powder in my brows. This one's from Rare Beauty, and I'll just take this through, then I will set it down with a brow wax or a brow gel, and I find that this brush just does both of those perfectly. For your typical traditional flat creaser shader brush, this is the Delium Tools 776. It is the most perfect shape because you can stamp on the outer portion of the eye, you can turn it sideways and get a nice smooth blend, you can use this to feather colors between the crease and the lid. It really does everything, and then I love just taking it on the side and gently smoking this over my pencil brush just to give it a better blend because a pencil brush is a little denser, so it's always going to put down more product. When you go in with a product like this or a brush like this, you can really diffuse everything out beautifully. These are the brushes I used today, and this was 90% of the look I did was this brush. Next, this is from the Morphe Jaclyn Hill collection. It's the JH35. I know it looks like it's dirty. I did not use this with any product. Instead, this is the brush I like to use after I've applied my product, and I will take this in clean and dry and just blend everything together. So it's gonna get some product on it, but this is my clean blender brush. It's the one I use to kind of tie everything together and make everything look a little bit more airbrushed by going in with a clean brush. I love the shape because it is similar to this one in that it's more on the flat side, but it does have a little more fluff to it. So I turn it on the side and I can get all the way up to the brow and even into the lower lash line without it looking too like intense. The pencil brush I use is from Beauty For Real as well because it's two-sided. I get a super small one and a large one. The way that I use this is I will take the short one and I will apply a dark color to the outer third of the eye. I'll then go into a lighter color and I will blend the inner corner to the outer corner to blend the two out. And when I'm done with all that, then I move into that clean blender brush just to kind of tie everything together. And it really makes everything look effortless. These brushes are very dense, so you get a lot of product on them, which is why going in with something fluffy to blend it out is always a good way to make it look more diffused. Also from the Morphe Jaclyn Hill collection, this is the JH41, the best eyeshadow shader brush there is. I use this with every shimmer shade in pretty much every video you have ever seen since these brushes came out. It's the only one I use. I consistently go back to it. I try something new and I come back to it. There was a brief amount of time where I was using a denser brush. This is the Makeup Shack T49. But very soon after, I went back to this one and have never looked back. Definitely, of all of the eyeshadow brushes, for me, the most important. And the last brush that I typically use every single day, this is the Sigma X Trend Mood E30. I use this for the inner corner, for the brow bone, and I'll use this for any detailed blender. Even though it's a pencil brush, I love using this to blend that inner corner highlight into the lower lash, pull it over the lid. I'll use this to smoke across the lash line if I feel I need to, but I love it for that precision highlighting. Anyway, I hope this helps. This has been a roundup of all of my current favorite brushes and tools, the things that I consistently, pretty much every time I use my makeup, use. So let me know your favorites down below. I love trying out your faves, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!